Since the release of the King of Fighters 15 in 2022, it feels like SNK is actively pushing to become one of the biggest fighting game developers in the industry and be side by side in relevance with huge names like Capcom and Bandai Namco. And I think that 2026 is not going to be an exception for this, and it's a year that is going to be full of news and incredibly exciting announcements from SNK as a company. And in this video we're going to try to predict every single one of them, so let's get into it. And very obviously the only way to start this video correctly is that the first thing we gotta do is predict Season 2 for Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, the active and ongoing SNK fighting game. And I gotta say that even though SNK has already been showing us, animations with Krauser, Mr. Karate, Ryo, and Robert Garcia, I think that we're still gonna see a lot of surprises for Season 2, and I'm gonna talk about them, but very obviously the first topic or theme of Season 2 for Fatal Fury is going to be art of fighting. And it makes a ton of sense, right? Because it is a way to actively use their ongoing fighting game to promote the next big thing that they want to release and put DLC, from the next game into the one that is already ongoing. And it's just a good marketing strategy to basically move people from the current game into the next one. So I do believe that it is almost a given that we are gonna get Krauser and also Ryo as Mr. Karate in Fatal Fury Season 2. Then also, SNK is very likely going to put one of the Mark of the Wolves characters that didn't make it on release on Season 2, like for example Jaehan or Freeman, and I think that any of the two could make it on this season, but I do believe that Jaehan is more likely because his brother is already in. It is probably very easy for SNK to actually make the character with the presence of the other one that is relatively similar on the game already, so I do think that Jaehan has a higher chance of making it, but either, him or Freeman could easily take one of the slots on Season 2, and it's gonna happen, I believe. It's very, very likely. And finally, with this in mind, we will have 2 slots left for Season 2 if we assume that it's gonna actually have the same number of characters than the first season. But I actually believe, and this is gonna be a wild take, I know that some people are gonna think I'm crazy, but I think that Season 2 of City of the Wolves is gonna have 7 characters in total. I think that we're gonna get Blue Mary and Rick Stroud as 2 of the next, 5 essential basic slots that the game would have if it imitates the first season. I think that Blue Mary is 100% in. She's been teased, in EOST 100 times. And then Rick Stroud is one of the characters that is, from the older legacy characters that people want to see back the most. And he was also present on the leaks before the game was released, when there was a beta on PC and everything got leaked and whatever. So I do think that Blue Mary and Rick Stroud are going to take those 2 slots. And this is where things go crazy, and people say I'm a madman. Let me know in the comments what you think. But for characters 6 and 7, I think that we're gonna get a free, character, which is gonna be Geese, like what happened with Rugal in KOF 15. I think that we're gonna get that kind of free DLC update with a boss character, and we're gonna get a playable version of Nightmare Geese on the roster. And then for slot number 7, I believe that we are gonna get a guest character. It is almost impossible, in my opinion, that the guest character strategy for marketing around Fatal Fury is gonna go away. Like, fighting game developers know that guest characters put new eyes into games, new audiences try a game when they have a guest character that they really like, and I know that there is a chance that we are gonna get a new guest character on Season 2. Now, who could it be? I believe that there is 2 ways they could take. One is the fighting game way, and we could get a Tekken guest character with, for example, Jin or Kazuya, or a lot of other options that you could put into the game. And why do I say this? Because in the last Battle Pass for Tekken 8, in the case that you don't play, Tekken, and maybe you only play SNK fighting games, they actually added SNK-like cosmetics into the game, which are a clear hint of a collaboration, which could be also, of course, an SNK guest character in Tekken and not the other way. But Tekken already got an SNK guest character on Tekken 7, and it does feel a lot of the time like, guest characters are treated like favorites. So I would not be surprised if Jin is present, for example, on Fatal Fury as a way to answer for the presence of Geese in Tekken 7, and also with maybe another SNK guest character on Tekken 8. And then the other road that they could take is put more real-lifers. I don't think that it is a good idea. Of course, we all know how Ganachi and Ronaldo were very detrimental for the success of this game marketing-wise, and it was a huge problem with the whole audience, for this game. But the best thing that they could do if they go the real-lifer route would be to put a WWE wrestler on the game, because the Saudi, money and all of that actually has a connection with the WWE, and it is a big, financial relationship between Saudi and WWE as a business. And maybe, if they choose to put a real lifer into the game, at least it could be, Stone Cold or The Rock or John Cena, whatever. That makes more sense, like character-wise. Even if it is a real life person, at least it would be more, logical to put a wrestler into a fighting game, and that's kind of like the best route that they could take. and they could also make something worse, you know, we don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I believe that it is very likely that we're gonna get another guest character and that the collabs and all of that are not gonna go away. This game obviously needs new audiences, more recognition, new eyes into the product, and guest characters do that, devs know that, so I don't think that the guest character strategy is going away, and it's probably gonna happen again. Hopefully it is something good, you know, but that's my prediction for Season 2 of Fatal Fury. 7 characters, 6 DLC that are paid, and 1 free update with geese. But not everything is about Fatal Fury, right? We know that SNK is much bigger now, it has newer studios, more people working on the company, and they are probably making multiple games at the same time. And what I believe could happen when it comes to new titles is that this year we are likely going to get a teaser for the new Art of Fighting. I think that it is very obvious that they want to announce the new Art of Fighting maybe at Evo Vegas this year, because they are making teasers for it actively. And I gotta say, you know, that the Krauser animation, the Mr. Karate animation, to me they are a teaser for both Fatal Fury and the Art of Fighting reboot. It's not only about Season 2 of City of the Wolves. So I do think that there is a very high chance that we are gonna get an Art of Fighting teaser at Evo Vegas this year. And then there's also the Samurai Shodown RPG or action game. You know, SNK has been saying for years already that they're making that Samsho game, and we have not seen anything on it. We don't have a teaser, we don't have a gameplay trailer, nothing. And we technically know about the Samsho action game from earlier than the AOF project, so it is kind of weird that we haven't seen anything on it. So what I believe is gonna happen is that we're gonna see AOF at Evo Vegas, like I said, and then later on the year, maybe at the Game Awards, especially since now SNK has a ton of money, we're gonna see a teaser trailer for the Samurai Shodown action game. Because it is, you know, an action RPG based on samurais that is a very famous and popular genre of video games that could reach a very big mass audience. And the Game Awards is the best spot to put a trailer for a big game because everyone is on it, everyone watches that. If you love video games, you watch the Game Awards. So I think that SNK might put a lot of money into that event and show, you know, the Samsho action game, specifically at the Game Awards, to put a lot of eyes into it so that it has a chance of reaching a very big audience. And to me, that is kind of like the roadmap for newer games in 2026 for SNK. AOF at Evo Vegas and the Samsho action game at the Game Awards, or maybe, you know, a Summer's Game Fest, Tokyo Game Show, any huge gaming event. But the discussion doesn't end here, because we cannot forget about how SNK on the latest part of 2025 was also doing re-releases for older games with the Neo Geo Premium Selection. And what I believe is going to happen with that is that we're going to get more games in 2026, very obviously. I would personally like to see, this is more a wish than a prediction, but I would love to see a re-release for KOF 11. It is the only big King of Fighter game that has not gotten a premium, you know, like modern re-release with rollback and modern features in Steam and PS5 and modern consoles and whatever. So I would love to see KOF 11 make that comeback. I think that it deserves to be a modern playable game. And then I think that the most likely situation is that we are going to see Art of Fighting re-releases. If we are getting a new AF, why would SNK not put the older games in a playable status, you know, in modern consoles, if a lot of people have never played AOF before? So it is a good idea to actually give, you know, a new audience resources to try the older games before the new one comes out. So I would hope that's the case for, you know, the premium selection for Neo Geo games, that we can get a re-release for KOF 11 and a couple of AOF games. And now, just to, you know, end the video as a final thought, what about the King of Fighters, which is arguably the biggest IP that SNK has? I think that we are not gonna get a new KOF for a while, maybe like 2028 or something like that, even though SNK just opened, you know, a new studio in 2024, which is called the KOF Studio. I think that they're probably with all their guns now on Fatal Fury, on Art of Fighting, and on Samsho, and even other projects that we don't know about. And I believe that they want to put those games on the spotlight and not make them compete with the King of Fighters, because they know that their KOF is essentially the biggest IP that they have. So are we gonna see a new KOF? No. I think that we're not gonna see KOF in a while, and it's probably gonna make a big comeback when it actually makes, you know, a presence again as a game. And I'm super excited for that, but it's gonna be a long time before that, and now is the time for other franchises to shine. So if you enjoyed the video, guys, please like and subscribe to support the channel if you can. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen with SNK in 2026. Wish you all an amazing year and keep enjoying funny games.